So that is the path to God within darkness. So this is the, in a deeper way, you could look at these 3 weeks culminating Tisha B'Av as the teaching about how to remain hopeful even when things are difficult. And this is why they say that on Tisha B'Av is the beginning of the light of Mashiach. And we say that Mashiach will be born on Tisha B'Av.
Elohai, neshama shenatata bi, tehoah.
Morning, Reb Eli, from
Greetings.
Afternoon here in the land of Israel in Haifa, the beautiful, beautiful city of Haifa, Israel. And it's Erev Tisha B'Av, so we're going to study some Slonimer. It's in Parshat Et Chanan. It's page Mem in Sefer Devarim, Netivot Shalom. For those of you who are following at home, we're going to start on the second paragraph on page Mem, Ve'yesh lomar od, and basically cover this page. Hopefully we'll be able to cover everything on that page. So we'll see what good kavana this can give us for commemorating Tisha B'Av. And maybe just to recap, Tisha B'Av is the commemoration of the destruction of the first and second temple. Want to add anything to that, Rebelli?
Another tragedies. It's basically the day that we set aside for mourning, communal mourning for our spiritual and physical status and our current situation. So this is it's a very heavy day, but as the Slonimer, I'm sure, is going to explain, the further something falls down, the higher place a thing falls down from, the lower it lands, and hidden within the loneliness, something very holy and special. So I'm sure he's going to dig and uncover the holiness and the great joy which is hidden within this sad day.
That's exactly the point. So the silver lining or the golden lining, we could say. So let's jump right in. As I said, it's page Mem in Sefer Devarim, Parshat Va'et Chanan, in Netivot Shalom, the Slonimer. Ve'yesh lomar od, hine k'tiv Yishaya Mem Hei. And we can interpret the meaning of Tisha B'Av based on commentary on a verse in Isaiah 45. And I'm going to quote the verse in a moment, but just to mention that this is also part of the morning prayer of the regular morning prayer service. And but in the service it's modified just a tiny bit. But here he's actually bringing the original verse from Isaiah in its full bluntness. And it says, Yotzer or uvore choshech, oseh shalom uvore et hakol. The creator of light and the former of light and the creator of darkness, the one who makes peace and creates evil. Ani Adonai, I am God, oseh kol ele. So this is a verse from Isaiah, and obviously it's, there's a certain heaviness to saying, and God is the creator of evil. In the prayer service, it's modified to say God is the creator of everything. In other words, including evil. So it's a little bit of an editorial kind of softening of the edge, right, of the bluntness. ולכאורה הקדוש ברוך הוא, הלא הוא מקור הטוב, ואיך יצא מאיתו שיברא הרע. And as it were, says the Slonimer, the Holy One, blessed be, is a source of goodness. So how can it be that God is also the source of evil? Doesn't stand to reason. אכן כל עניין הרע הוא בבחינת היעדר שקודם הצמיחה. Thus, the whole concept of evil is the emptiness, the void that is present before growth. על דרך הזרע שזורעים באדמה, שתחילה הוא נרקב לגמרי, ולא נשאר בו רק כוסתא דחיותא. And this can be understood through the analogy of a seed that when it's sowed in the earth, what happens to the seed first is that it rots away completely, but one little kernel, the germ of the seed, it germinates, right? So, ורק מתוך כך מתחיל לצמוח, and then it germinates. So that's an analogy. כך עניין בוררה, הוא הדרך היעדר שקודם הצמיחה. This is an analogy for the concept or the experience of evil in the world, that first there's a void that comes before the growth. And I think by void he means the rotting away or the collapse or decay, right, that comes before the growth. So that's evil. It's a decay that is present before something new is about to be launched. כמו שמצינו בראשית הבריאה, דכתוב ויהי ערב ויהי בוקר, and just like we read in the story of Genesis in Bereshit, in the story of creation, where it says, and there was evening and there was morning. So after each day of creation it said, and there was evening and then there was morning the first day. And after the second day it says, there was evening and there was morning the second day, etc. It's a curious kind of phrase to begin with. The commentators ask all over, why not start with morning and then evening? It's more intuitive. But rather the Torah says there was evening and then there was morning. שהקדוש ברוך הוא ברא את הבריאה באופן של חשוכה והדר נהורה. But this teaches us that the Holy One, blessed be, created creation, the world, in such a way that first there was darkness, evening, והדר נהורה, and in it there was light. שבחושך גופו טמון הנהורה, that inside the darkness itself, the light is hidden. החושך הוא המבוא והאמצעי להתגלות האור. Thus, the darkness is the means and what would mavov mean? The opening, or the foundation for the revelation of the light. וכדאית בחז"ל, Bereshit Rabbah, and as the sages taught in the Midrash, and specifically in the book Bereshit Rabbah, chapter Bet, שכבר בראשית הבריאה נרמזו ד' הגלויות בפסוק והארץ הייתה תוהו ובוהו וחושך על פני תהום. So the sages taught that from the beginning of creation, the four exiles of the people of Israel were already hinted in the beginning, where it says, "Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim et haaretz v'haaretz hayta tohu vavohu." In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and the earth was chaos and void. V'choshech al pnei tehom, and darkness upon the abyss. So in the Midrash, the sages teach that tohu, which is chaos, is hints to the empire, the Babylonian Empire. Uvohu, which is void, is a hint to the Persian Empire. And Choshech, darkness, so Malchut Yavan, hints to the empire, the Greek Empire. Al Pnei Tehom, over the abyss, so Edom Malchut Resha'a, is the empire of the Roman Empire. Actually, here he says the evil Roman Empire, to be clear. Ki tachlit habriya hi olam hatikun. So he says, why are these four empires? And for those of you who are not clear on context, let us explain that those are the four empires that have conquered and controlled the land of Israel and oppressed our people in the land of Israel. And so we have been subjects to those, and they are the people who caused us the destruction. For instance, the Babylonians destroyed the first temple, the Romans destroyed the second temple, and the Persian.
And Rome.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna. It crossed my mind that Rome, which is our current exile.
That's right.
And this is Rome is actually Seir, which is Esav, Yaakov's brother. And as you're speaking this, Rabbi Nachman says that he quotes the Gemara. There's a in the Talmud it says that if someone, the rabbis are having a conversation, and one rabbi says, if anyone asks you, where is God? You can tell him that God is in the great city of Rome.
Uh-huh.
And it's one of those Gemaras that these cryptic conversations that you have to be in like an altered state to kind of figure out what's going on. But Rabbi Nachman says that the point is what you're saying that, and right now we're in other words, he's right in this decayed spiritual environment of exile in which we find ourselves. In there is the actual seed of the redemption.
That's right. That's right. Of the next spiritual light that will come upon us and elevate us to a new and better place.
Right. Davka from Seir, Davka from the evil of Rome and Esav.
Right. Will come from the midst of the suffering. So what's the principle? The sages here from the Bereshit Rabbah, they say that the fact that it's hinted in the first verse that describes creation is hints to those four empires that will oppress us, means that the whole purpose of creation is to create a world in which there is transformation. So the transformation happens within that context, right? It's our job to bring something good and better in the context of a society and a world that is, that has challenge and you may say evil in it. וכך יסד הקדוש ברוך הוא, קודם לכן צריכות להיות ד' גלויות. And thus it has been established from the beginning that God has created four exiles or four oppressing empires that are there to lay the ground and eventually bring to a world that is completely transformed. So this is again the principle of the void or decay before the growth, as of the analogy of the seed being planted in the ground. Because from the mouth of the Supreme One, there will not come any evil. but rather inside the evil, the goodness is embedded, and decay brings forth growth. That's interesting. It's kind of like a diamond in the rough. So God is handing us the goodness in such a terrible package. So you have to unwrap the package and find the gift within it. It's a challenging concept, although profound, isn't it?
You mentioned the Slonimer is basing this on the very beginning of creation with the idea of cheshech preceding light.
Yeah.
Which is basically setting up the way our lives are going to be.
Yeah.
A lot of people, as if we're heading into darkness. We start with light, with youth and energy and excitement, and as we get older, we sort of descend into this sort of a darkness, and we're going to the end of the line.
Okay.
But here we see that really it's the process is, if we're looking at it clearly, we're really starting with cheshech, and we're working our way. The more we learn, the more we experience. If we look, it's just a little bit of a different way of looking at it, and we're going from darkness towards light. And as a people, we're moving from the darkness of exile, personal exile, community exile, towards moving towards the light.
That's right.
Of day. So cheshech is related. It's the same root actually,
right,
as the word we see it in the Chumash, v'lo chasachta. Right. We see that that God says to Abraham, you showed me something over here. You didn't withhold. You didn't hold back your son.
Yeah.
Cheshech it's not that it's inherently lacking of something. It's a holding back. It's a holding back of something great and beautiful that we have to strive to find within it.
That's right. That's right. It reminds me, to bring it to the present time, when COVID started, and COVID is still terrible. I mean, we're in the midst of this real collapse. It's not only COVID, it's not only the suffering that families that are stricken with, with hard cases, sometimes death, and my, sympathies go out to anybody who's experienced, a loss. And in addition to the health crisis, there's a political crisis. I mean, the government seems to not be functioning, and then the economy is not functioning. So we're in the midst in a very challenging unraveling, and it's scary. And there are those commentaries that I read on the news. Now, I'm not talking about the sages. I'm not talking about the ancient sages. I'm talking about today's sages. You read in commentaries or hear on TV. And some people say this is great because our society has needed a reset anyway. So COVID is revealing the fault lines and where things need to be fixed, because we've been, there's those who say that we've been in a really prosperous society that's been indulgent and and kind of lost perspective of what's the what's the essence of things and what's the priorities have been. We're discovering now that family is really more important than the nonsense that we thought that we need another car, we need another vacation, or we need a third vacation home somewhere, and those are the things that riled us up. And now with COVID, everybody's discovering that, it's my father and my mother and my children, so that's really what counts. As long as I have my people that are dear to me and my health, everything's put in perspective. So there's something about the evil of Corona, that's of COVID, that's bringing some kind of reset. A lot of people are saying, the things are never going to be the same again. Our priorities are going to change. We're going to know, we're kind of rediscovering what's really important. So I think that's an example of how, in the midst of crisis, you're discovering what's really, I'd say, the more spiritual, elevated, light. So that's just a thought. ועל דרך זה אצל יהודי, כאשר הוא עובר מצב של חשכות, ויודע ומאמין שאף כי אציע שאול הנך, אז בתוך החשכות נמצאת הדרך לבוא בה לצמיחה חדשה. And in this same way, it's for the individual person, when a person is going through a situation of darkness, and if that person knows and believes, has faith, not believes, I don't like the word believe, but has faith, even though what's presented is is the deepest of crisis. Sheol would be the underworld, right? The deepest of the of evil. But that inside this darkness there is a way to come to a new beginning, a new growth. ומתוכה על ידם מתחיל לצמוח מחדש, and through this challenge, he or she, the individual person, starts a renewed growth. וזוכה לקבל מחדש את התורה, and as such, in conceptually, merits to receive Torah all afresh, all anew. And Torah here could be also understood as the teaching, the wisdom, not Torah as just a literal Torah per se, that too, but really Torah in the greater sense of the teaching, the wisdom, what's important. בבחינת קבלת התורה שלאחר הנפילה והשבירה, which is just like the receiving of the Torah after the falling and the shattering. And so what shattering is he thinking about? This is a story that everybody knows. Let's see who can guess which shattering we're talking about. What Torah did we receive after the falling and the shattering? Moses shattered the first tablets of the Torah. We did not just receive the Torah, here it is, with a silver spoon, but there was a shattering. There was a crisis in the community. That followed by the shattering of the tablets. That's a metaphor for the Kabbalistic shattering of the vessels, etc. We're not going to get into that right now. But the Torah, the light of Torah, which is which is our source of spirituality, was given through the crisis of the shattering of the first tablets and then the writing of the second tablets, etc. So, והיינו כי כאשר יהודי שרוי בחשכות ויודע שאף בתוך החושך עמו אנוכי בצרה, and thus when a Jew, when a person, when he and she is inside darkness and knows that even inside the darkness, I, God, am with you, alongside you while you're struggling. הקדוש ברוך הוא נמצא לידו, הרי בחשיכה גופה נהור השרי. Then, in the darkness itself, there's a light present. וזה עניין ימי בין המצרים ותשעה באב. And this is the essence of the days of the 3 weeks, the days of mourning and concern that culminate with Tisha B'Av, which is tonight and tomorrow. שהם בבחינת הערפל אשר שם האלוקים, which is like the fog within which God is present, כעניין ההיעדר שקודם הצמיחה, like the decay before the growth, שבתוך ההיעדר של שיא החושך, because within that void, at the height of darkness, תמונה צמיחה מחודשת, the new growth is hidden, שלאחר מכן באים הזין דנחמתה, and after that come the 7 weeks of consolation. So starting on Saturday, we're going to be reading the Haftorah of consolation. It's the Saturday of consolation. And then there's the 7 weeks that each one of those Shabbats is on the theme of consolation and hope. And this culminates in והכל הכנה לקראת ימי התשובה של השנה החדשה, and all this prepares us for the days of repentance of the new years. In other words, these 7 weeks take us right into Rosh Hashanah, and there is, again, the new growth starts right there. It's a new year and a new start. So he's getting into some with sophisticated this Kabbalistic teaching, but well, let's give it a try anyway. So there are 24 permutations of the name of God Adonai. And everybody knows the name Adonai, Baruch, Atah, Adonai, Eloheinu, right? So Adonai has 4 letters, Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yud. And those 4 letters, if you permutate the letters, meaning scramble the order, so instead of Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yud, it could be Yud, Aleph, Dalet, Nun, it could be Nun, Yud, Aleph, Dalet, etc. So when you have 4-letter words, mathematically you can reorder the letters 24 times into 24 unique combinations. So one of those 24 permutations is Nida Nun Yud Daled Aleph. מאחרי ט' באב עד ראש השנה יש 50 יום כנגד האות נון. So in the permutation Nida, the ot nun, the n, its numerical value is 50. And you have exactly 50 days between Tisha B'Av and Rosh Hashanah. אחר כך 10 ימי תשובה. So following Rosh Hashanah, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, you have the 10 days of repentance, or the days of awe, they're called. And the next letter in Nida is Yud. Yud is 10. So you have the Yud, symbolizes the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And you have 4 days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, the holiday of Sukkot. So in Nida you have N, Y, D, Nun, Yud, Dalet, and the numerical value of Dalet is 4. So that symbolizes the 4 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. ביום ראשון דסוכות הנקרא יום ראשון, דכתוב ולקחתם לכם ביום הראשון. So, and then you have the first day of Sukkot, that's called the first day, because in the Torah, it doesn't say celebrate Sukkot, it says on the first day you will take the 4 species, etc. So that's, so it's considered the first day. And the letter in Nida after Dalet is Aleph. Aleph is 1, so that symbolizes the first day. So you see that the permutation of God's name, Nida, that symbolizes the 50, then the 10, then the 4, and then the 1, which completes the full cycle between Yom Tisha B'Av and Sukkot. ולקחתם לכם ביום ראשון בגומר ושמחתם לפני אדוני אלוקיכם וכנגד עוד א', וזה בניין המלכות מחדש אחר החורבן. So Sukkot is considered traditionally the most happy holiday, the most ecstatic, the most exuberant holiday in the whole cycle of the Jewish holidays. So you can see that from the tragedy and the mourning of Tisha B'Av, we build gradually towards the ecstatic joy of the rebuilding that starts in Sukkot. ועל פי האמור, הרי ההכנה לכל זה הם ג' השבועות שבין המצרים. And the preparation for this whole process are the 3 weeks leading up to Tisha B'Av. We're now on the last day of the 3 weeks. שגם הם מכוונים כנגד מדרגות עליונות, כתאית הפסויים הקדושים, which is also, even though they're days of mourning, their intention is to connect us with the highest of the high spiritually. שהקדוש ברוך הוא נתן ליהודי בימים אלו את הדרך. Because in those days, the Holy One, blessed be, gave us the way, the path. So that is the path to God within darkness. So this is the, in a deeper way, you could look at these 3 weeks culminating Tisha B'Av as the teaching about how to remain hopeful even when things are difficult. וזה מה דאמור שבתשעה באב מתחיל להתנוצץ אור של משיח. And this is why they say that on Tisha B'Av is the beginning of the light of Mashiach. And we say that Mashiach will be born on Tisha B'Av. And that's why Tisha B'Av is the day שבתוך ההיעדר של תשעה באב תמונה הצמיחה, that inside the void and the decay of Tisha B'Av, there's hidden the growth, שממנו מתחיל אחר כך הבניין המחודש, from which the new construction of the new transformed paradigm begins. This is very deep and challenging teachings. I can speak for myself, and I'm curious what folks feel about this. Please leave comments below. Let's discuss. But I have an aversion. One of the ways I handle, and many people that I talk to handle suffering, is we try to deny it. So denial, suppression, ignoring, rationalizing, sugarcoating over is one of the ways that I sometimes will handle things that are difficult. I think what the Torah here, and the Slonimer in particular, is highlighting that the better way is to actually face the darkness, go into the darkness, and look for the solution, for the hope that's in the problem instead of ignoring the problem.